Peace and blessings is real. First and foremost, I want to take this time and give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh through his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, for allowing his word to come out. And I hope you sincere brothers and sisters is edified by this word. And the name of the lesson tonight is going to be called Without Braille and Hearing Aids, How Can You Get Through to the Blind and Deaf? I'm going to say it again. The name of the word tonight is going to be Without Braille and Hearing Aids, How Can You Get Through to the Blind and Deaf? It's going to be a cold-blooded word tonight, man, and I hope you sincere brothers and sisters, man, is really edified by this word, okay? Before we get into the word, I want you to see what's on the screen, okay? This is an example of an alcoholic, okay? So my message is going to be metaphorically used through alcoholics and winos. This is what you see on the screen, an alcoholic, okay? Someone that drinks excessive amounts of liquor, all right? And we're also going to talk about a wino, someone who drinks excessive amount of wine, especially one that's considered homeless. You see? Now, before we get into this word, man, the people we're going to speak about, or the audience, the targeted audience we're going to speak about in this word, is going to be those that's sick and diseased, okay? And the sick and diseased people that we're talking about would be the blind and the deaf. When I say blind, I'm not talking about literal blind. The blind that I'm speaking of is those not having the faculty of discernment, those that are destitute of intellectual light, those that are unable to understand, those that have darkened and blunted minds. Those are the blind that I'm going to speak about tonight. And the deaf is those that have blunted and dull hearing. The deaf would be those that has the incapacity to understand. Those are the deaf that we're going to speak about, because this is the audience that most people fit under when it comes to spiritual. Okay? So the name of the word again, the name of the word tonight is Without Braille and a Hearing Aid, How Can You Get Through to the Deaf and Blind? We all know Braille is a form of written language for the blind. So in order for you to get to the blind, you're going to need Braille. And in order for you to get to those that's deaf, you're going to need a hearing aid, which is a device worn by a deaf person to amplify sound. Now that you understand that, here's the question again. Without Braille or hearing aids, how can you get through to the blind and deaf, man? Think about that. Because let me tell you something, man. When in this biblical walk, some of us are fortunate, man, to come up with discoveries, gospels, mysteries, valuable spiritual information, revelations, prophecies. There's a lot of spiritual gifts that happens when you deal with the Bible. When you deal in the spiritual world, there's a lot of spiritual things that you may come across. And what end up happening is when you go to try to share that information and enlighten others, you have to understand that the audience that you're dealing with is people that's deaf and blind, people that need Braille and hearing aids, okay? And without Braille and without hearing aids, how you think you're going to be able to get through to the blind and deaf. You see? In Amos 3:3, it speaks about, can two people walk together without agreeing on the direction? Okay? In other words, being on the same page. In other words, seeing eye to eye, having communion, so to speak. How can you do that with a person that can't see you nor hear you? You're not going to get through, man. And that's exactly what's going on in Israel right now, man. People are blind and deaf, and you have individuals that's trying to get through to these people. And if you don't have the proper tools, it's not going to happen, man. It's cold-blooded, man. Cold-blooded. Now, myself and my bro, before we came into the gospel, we was in the dark as well. We was in the dark. We was blind and we was deaf. But we've been fortunate, okay, to be able to overcome the sickness of blind and the disease of being deaf. All praises to Yahweh through his only begotten son, Yahweh. We have been able to come out of it. And now that we have come up out of it, we know what it's like to be in darkness. And now that we're in the light, now that we can see, now that we can hear, our goal is to teach others the same thing. And I realize the frustration in doing that is you have to understand the audience that you're dealing with, the people you're coming across. They can't see you nor hear you. So you have to equip yourself with the skill of Braille, the tool of Braille, and the tool of hearing aids in order to get through to these people when it comes to discoveries, mysteries, codes, biblical secrets, things that would help you get to that salvation, things that'll benefit you in the realm of salvation. You see? So, again, without Braille and hearing aids, how can you get through to the blind and deaf, man? Because we're talking about spiritual infants, spiritual babes is who we're talking about. And one of the ways to help you get through to these people, knowing and understanding that they're spiritual infants, you have to give them that, you have to go get that Gerber baby food and feed it to them, man, for nourishment, you see? And you got to stop shoving steaks down their mouths because they're not going to be able to process it. When you try to give information to the blind and deaf, it's just like you're metaphorically shoving a steak down an infant's mouth. They're not going to be able to digest it. So you have to give them that Gerber baby food. You have to feed that to them because they can digest that. In other words, you have to provide Braille and hearing aids. You see, you have to be able to articulate how you get through to these people, man. And that's why a lot of people in Israel, especially the Israelites, are walking around blind and deaf, clueless to what's going on, because people are failing to understand that these people are blind and deaf, and people are not being creative enough to use the proper tools to handle the sick and diseased. You see? But in Isaiah 35:5, it speaks about the sick and the diseased being healed. And that's Isaiah 35:5. It says, the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. We ain't in that time right now, but when Yahweh come back, yeah, we'll be in that time. But until then, what are you going to do, man? Without Braille and hearing aids, how you going to get through to these people that's blind and deaf, man? Now, as we get ready to close out this word, I want you to think about something. Like I told you when we open up the word, I told you what you see on the screen is an alcoholic. someone who drinks excessive amounts of liquor. And I also talked to you about a wino, which is one who drinks excessive amounts of wine, especially one that's considered homeless, right? Now, I want you to think about this as we get ready to close out this word, all right? Imagine you, a person, come across a wino, okay? Everybody know what a wino look like. I don't need to have this picture on the screen. You know what a wino looks like, right? So let's say a man come across a wino and he has an option. He offer him a bottle of water or a bottle of wine, right? He offers the wino a bottle of water and a bottle of wine, and he tell the wino to pick one. Which one you think the wino is going to pick? He's going to pick the wine, okay? So if that person go 100 days in a row, says to the wino, hey man, you want a bottle of water or wine? After 100 days in a row, you're going to see this wino sitting out, homeless, sitting out where he usually sit at, and it's going to be 100 bottles of water right next to him. And somebody's going to say, dude, why do you have 100 bottles of water sitting next to you? Guess what he's going to tell you? Because some man offered me the option between water and wine, and for 100 days straight, I picked wine.